Have you guys seen this chart of China's social credit system? If not, I wanted to walk through it for those that haven't, because I also believe this is on the things that are next for us to some extent. I think it'll start small and it'll start for safety things. Almost certainly it'll start with things like COVID vaccinations, for example. And rather than points or some complicated system, it'll just be a checkbox, yes or no. Have you done this thing that we've determined that you need to do to be an upstanding citizen? And if you have, you'll be allowed to do things that if you haven't, you won't. But that is no less a social credit system. It's just a more simplistic, infantile one that hasn't grown into its trousers yet. But it bears looking at where this might be headed. I think it's worth looking, like just kind of seeing what other countries are actually doing in real time right now about it. So let's just kind of read through this. It kind of shows it from a top down. At the top, you have 1,300 credit points, social credit points. China's social credit system. It's been dubbed the most ambitious experiment in digital social control ever undertaken. The Chinese government plans to launch its social credit system nationally by 2020. Citizens with high scores get to enjoy special privileges, while those with low scores ultimately risk getting treated as second-class citizens. So at the top. On the left, you have things that will gain points, and on the right, in red, you have things that will lose you points. What is the aim of the system? The system intends to monitor, rate, and regulate the financial, social, moral, and possibly political behavior of China's citizens, and also the country's companies, via a system of punishments and rewards. The stated aim is to, quote, provide the trustworthy with benefits and discipline the untrustworthy. The Chinese government considers the system an important tool to steer China's economy and to govern society. There is still much speculation about how the final system will actually function. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. So at the top, you have 1,300 social points. A maximum of 1,300 points can be reached. So some of the things near the top of this that will gain you points are engaging in charity work, taking care of elderly family members. Think about that for a second. If you take care of elderly family members, you gain social credit. So they are gamifying things that they decide are important. Who's in government and whose support do the governments want? A lot of the elderly people. They want to be protected. So they're going to put something that they want into the scales of the social credit system. So this is like gamifying in real time people's lives based on the political factions that gain enough power to put an item on the list of things that modify social credit. This should be the most terrifying technological development, maybe of our lifetimes. I don't know. That's a broad statement. There's a lot of terrifying stuff happening. Okay. Engaging in charity work, taking care of elderly family members, positively influencing one's neighborhood. Who decides if what you're doing is a positive or negative influence on one's neighborhood? Well, the government. Negative things that will lower you from the top of the social credit system. Traffic offenses such as drunk driving or jaywalking. Is jaywalking a traffic offense? Illegally protesting against the authorities. Of course. Illegally protesting against the authorities. Not visiting aging parents regularly. I know this is Chinese culture to value your elders highly. It just seems so absurd and sort of just like it seems like out of left field that they jam this one in. Visit those grandparents regularly or you'll lose social credit score. You know what that means? It means that your elders would be able to report on you for not visiting them, and their report would lower your social credit score. So it like gives the elderly power over you. And like, let's say you're trying to raise your social score by taking care of your elderly family members. Well, who's going to report that? Well, It's like enslaving you to your elders. Like you have to do an extra good job, otherwise they won't give you the plus point on the Black Mirror social credit score system. Whew. It's like enslaving you to your elders. Literally. Not literally, but you know what I mean. Other things that can lead to high scores. High scores can lead to, these are the bonuses for having high scores. Priority for school admissions and priority for employment. Easier access to cash loans and consumer credit. Deposit-free bicycle and car hire. Free gym facilities. Cheaper public transportation. Shorter wait times in hospitals. Think about the implications of that one. Changing your spot in line for medical treatment. How maybe this is actual slavery. if you know you'll die if you might die or face health consequences for not playing along. Kojal says, I've seen how the social conditioning works with points. Your country will turn into Reddit. And at that point, it would be merciful to nuke the country. Yeah, Reddit's a cesspool. I do not participate there. I mean, I read occasionally, but the voting thing is creepy. It's always been creepy to me. I'm not like, anytime I've ever shared my mind, it just gets downvoted into oblivion. So, like, why even participate? It's just not worth it. Pretty sure you saw a video about some parents in China suing their child for not visiting often enough. Oh, man. Oh, man. You'd pay-per-view tugs on this dude's goatee. I don't understand what that means. I don't think I want to know. Anyway, all right. Shorter wait times in hospitals. Fast-track promotion at work. Jumping the queue for public housing. Tax breaks. All right. So now we are crossing the 1,000-point threshold and we're going down. Each citizen is expected to be given a social credit score that will increase or decrease depending on whether the subject's social behavior is acceptable. The system is expected to draw on huge amounts of data about each and every individual gathered from traditional sources such as financial, criminal, and government records and existing data from registry offices or school officials, along with digital sources. The latter include data collected on the internet, such as the subject's search history, shopping preferences on e-commerce sites, and interactions on social media. So what you buy and what you search for and how you talk to people on social media can affect your social credit score. So that's going to affect what you choose to buy. That's going to affect what ideas you go looking for information on, which is a massive curtailing of any kind of liberty. Liberty requires nasty fights over ideas, and you will not want to go anywhere near searching for those fights to find them, to learn. Moreover, the system could also rely on information obtained through video surveillance systems with help from facial recognition technology. Okay, so let's go through some things on the lower end that might raise your score. Donating blood. Praising the government on social media. If you get social credit points for praising the government, then everybody's going to praise the government, and all of their praise will be precisely meaningless. It will become a virtue signal that is used inversely to identify people who are not doing it for further surveillance. That's how that works. This is like the story of the guy that didn't do the Nazi salute. They find the people that are not doing what everybody else is virtue signaling, and those are the people they pressure. Helping the poor, having a good financial credit history, and committing a heroic act will raise your credit score. The lowest score possible, really weird, arbitrary. It's 600 on the low end to 1,300 on the top end. Very arbitrary low and high numbers. Maybe they're Maybe they're relating that to the actual credit scores that we use here. Okay, things that will lose your social credit score. Posting anti-government messages on social media. Spreading rumors on the internet. Insincere apologies for crimes committed. So posting anti-government messages on social media. I think, all of us probably already just hit 600, the lowest score possible. Spreading rumors on the internet. I mean, who determines what a rumor, like a rumor? What if it's true? And, who determines that? Insincere apologies for crimes committed. I think apologizing for crimes is an important thing in their culture. So interesting. Who determines if an apology is sincere or not? Participating in anything deemed to be a cult. This is just equivalent to wrongthink. So if you're found to be associating with anybody or any ideas that they've determined that they don't want you participating in, then they'll name it a cult and drop you to 600 or whatever. Now, this is an interesting one. Cheating in online games. This is the only one I agree with. I'm just kidding. Kind of. I'm kidding. So, like, you use an aimbot in that shooter. No social credit score for you. Straight to jail. Straight to jail. Punishments can lead to denial of licenses, permits, and access to some social services. Exclusion from booking flights or high-speed train tickets. That's serious stuff. Like, if you can't travel, then you do not get to hold certain jobs. You can't have certain jobs. If you can't have a driver's license, you couldn't even get to a job. You're really screwed. Less access to credit, restricted access to public services, ineligibility for government jobs, no access to private schools. You're not well indoctrinated enough, so you got to go to the public schools. Public shaming. Exposure either online or on TV screens and public spaces of the names, photos, and ID numbers of blacklisted citizens. Phone dial tones mandated by authorities that inform people that they are calling a dishonest debtor. Can you imagine? First of all, who calls people anymore? Second of all, can you imagine like calling me and having some message being like, the person you are now calling is a dishonest debtor. Oh, man. That's terrible.